everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're going to take a look at part 31 of our Swiping of Seattle series. This will be the finale as we're going to take a look at the Seattle Kraken team as well as their lines and what they have to do to get on with for their next year. Overall, we'll take a look at our lines as well as potential signings and draft choices and trying to avoid that cap space issue like most teams are currently facing. So we'll get right into it. We'll start with our lineups. I believe the first line for the forwards will be Jacob Voracek. Obviously, he's probably going to be their best forward. Hands down, no doubt, will be the best player. Depending on if they can sign Hamilton, which I know is a big maybe as of now, it's not looking good for them per se, but I think if they really want him, they can definitely go out and get him. Obviously, as you can see in the top corner, $68.1 million is what their current spending's at. But if they can make a trade, because not everybody's going to be starting, so they'll most likely look to make a trade before the deadline even goes. So if they even think they have a shot at Hamilton, they'll definitely go for it, and I think that they do. So we'll get back into the line. So I think Voracek will be the best player. Next up, we're going to have Backlund. He is probably their best center, I think. Overall, there will be players with more potential than him, but I think that veteran presence up front will be something that they're looking for, as well as the next line of Tyler Johnson. Overall, I think he kind of brings that kind of line together. Overall, their team is going to be a little bit of rebuilding, a little bit of a veteran core. So with that top line kind of providing the offense, being reliable, I think it's very good for the Kraken, and it'll kind of sell tickets for them when otherwise there's no point because they're just a rebuilding team. Next line will be Andreas Johnson. Kind of brings that speed and energy into the game if he can find it. Overall, this is more of an offensive line, I think. They're not trying to play a lot of defense. It'll be kind of like that Armageddon line where everybody goes on offense and hopes that they score, and if they don't, it'll end up in the back of your net. So the next player will be Victor Rask for the center, as well as Nemestikov. So overall, this is obviously one of their more offensive lines. They're not playing a lot of defense. They're not known for their defense, none of them. So overall, it'll be an offensive line. But yeah, so now we'll go into the third line, which I believe will be Lawson Krause. Overall, he will kind of play that more defensive line, which is kind of more gritty. And but my third, which is starting to get into my draft selection, so I believe Eklund will go first to Buffalo, and number 2 will be Beniers. So I believe Beniers will play the third line with Krause and Kassian. Overall, these players, I think, will gel together nicely. Kassian will sort of play the Hyman-type role that other teams are looking for right now, that grittiness and trying to get into the corner. So I think that'll help Beniers out because he's more of that playmaker, and then Krause will be your finisher. So overall, I think that third line will complement each other nicely. And then finally on to the rough third line, or the fourth line rather, which will be Heinen, Dickinson, which I believe they'll fight, and then finally Tanev, which I think is a perfect combination of just grittiness, toughness, and overall defense. Like, they're not scoring a lot of goals for you, kind of like Boston's fourth line as of now, where they're not going to play they're not going to score a lot of goals for you, but they'll keep a lot of pucks out of your net, and you can log them for minutes. And I think that line will be more of a defensive-minded line. Now we'll take a look at the defense. So as I mentioned before, obviously Hamilton is a big question mark right now, but I believe the best defenseman as of now, playing the right side, will be Dougie Hamilton if they can get him. Obviously, if they think they have a shot, they'll definitely draft him and try and get him before. But if they don't, obviously this list is kind of for naught. But I believe Vince Dunn will be the left side defenseman for him. Probably the best lefty they have. Maybe Dermott, might interchange them. But I believe Hamilton as an offensive defenseman himself, it doesn't make sense to put two offensive defensemen together and more to bring that defense that Dunn has. Moving on to the next line, which will be Dermott. Obviously, he is more of an offensive-minded defenseman. and then you bring in the defensive-minded with Scott Mayfield. So overall, I think this line also will help kind of position themselves so they're not all offensive defensemen, but they split between the two of them. Finally, I'm going to go with my idea of the full-on defense line with Sherratt and Stanley. Overall, I think these players will kind of help each other out. Overall, they are defensive-minded. They're not going to score a lot of goals for you, but they will play a really, really solid defense. This might give Seattle a shot at something if they want to go for it, but they will have to add to their team and possibly sign Hamilton, because I believe if they don't have Hamilton, Mayfield will most likely move up with Dunn, and then Stanley will move up with Dermott, and then probably someone else like Clifton or someone with a little bit more offensive mindedness will play with Sherratt. So overall, I think for the goalies now, it's not as hard to decide. It'll be for the two. It'll be Holtby and then Vanacek. Obviously, not much surprise there. I think one might make the case for Vanacek to be the starter, but I don't think he's quite there yet in terms of skill. Obviously, Holtby will be kind of that leader. They might tandem it. I could definitely see them going tandem. But overall, I mean, it's definitely going to be a tight idea of like what they're looking for. I think for sure, if they want to grow him, I believe that Vanacek will do the tandem goaltending system where they play every other game. But if they really want to compete or sell tickets or whatever their kind of goal is, it will depend very much on which goalie starts. So if you see Vanacek does the designated starter, that means that they don't want to win and they'll probably just go in the rebuild. So look for Holtby to be traded or some other kind of fashion. Overall, my predictions on the team will be, most likely they will be kind of that wild card team. I think they might have a shot at making the playoffs in their first year, not to the extent that Vegas had, but you know, there's been a lot more crazy stuff. Montreal going to the Cup final, nobody had them, but I don't know. So there could definitely be a shot of the Kraken going all the way this year. Unlikely, but however, there's always a chance in hockey. So as for the signings, I believe Heinen, so for the RFA wise, Heinen will get pretty much league minimum, maybe $2 million, $1 million. Same with Dickinson. Gauthier, I think, will get traded before he has to get signed, or he'll get the RFA offer sheeted. As well, Dunn, I think, will get about 3 or 4. And then Hamilton, I see getting about 8, as well as Dermott getting about the same as Dunn, which is about $4 million. Other than that, there's not much other contract news. I believe they will trade pretty much everybody else that's not on the lineup, mostly for picks, or if they really want to go for it, obviously they'll go for a big player. They might go for a team like a Tarasenko. They could try and attempt an Ovi, but of course, the more players you go after, the less chance you have at Hamilton. And I think Hamilton is kind of the cream of the crop right now. So I think if they were to sign Hamilton and draft him, they show that they want him, they sign him, I think they have a shot for sure. About $8 million, $9 million is what it would cost for the Kraken to get him. Other teams might be a little less because they're more of a contending team. But overall, I think Hamilton will have a shot at the Kraken if the Kraken wish to pursue him. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you liked it, drop a like. If you like to consider subscribing, leave a comment down below if you agree and disagree with me. And until next time, see ya.